by exploring a theme that you guys use, neurological empowerment, to really define for families what that means and how it fits within the context of family life.
Great. All right. I guess I'll start. What we mean by neurological empowerment is working with the flow of neurochemistry, essentially. There are three basic parts of the brain that we generally refer to quite a lot: the survival brain, the emotional brain, and the executive brain. The executive brain is where we're our brightest, most brilliant, most capable, most able to control our impulses and master our motor skills and learn things and remember things. And so a big part of the work we do is supporting people to soothe the survival brain when that's reactive, to do emotional processing in the emotional brain when emotion is up, so that they can then get back to an executive brain state and be more brilliant.
Right.
And do you want to say how that ties into for parents?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to elaborate just a little bit because it's an ancient design, right? The survival brain, we share it with all vertebrates, and it's just basic survival. It's running all of those systems that are invisible, like inflating our lungs and beating our heart. And then it also keeps us safe when we're under threat, right? So, and we like that because we want to stay alive. Can't do anything else if you're dead, right? So we appreciate that. It keeps us alive by using fight, flight, freeze, or appease reactions. If we get our survival needs met for safety, water, food, shelter, warmth, then we have access to our emotional brain. And that's in charge of emotions, as you might guess. So it actually generates emotions with neurochemicals and experiences emotion, and then checks the environment to see if it's safe to have that emotion. And when we say safe, what we mean is there curiosity? Is there time? Is there presence? Is there availability? Is there somebody to network that feeling with? And if it isn't safe, well, the survival brain handles things that aren't safe. And so our processing gets sent back to our survival brain. If we luck out and it is safe, so you're a kid and you look up, you're having feelings and someone notices and they're like, oh, I see this is happening for you. I will be with you while this goes on. Do you want to come in my lap and explore it together, right? If you look out and you get that, then you have access to your executive brain, like Nathan was saying, logic, cooperation, make plans, follow through on them, all the stuff we love in a family. But here's the rub. If there's a threat, the executive brain shuts down, the emotional brain shuts down, and then we get sent to the survival brain to duke it out, right? For all of us, actually, but especially for kids, the threat doesn't have to be a grizzly bear, doesn't have to be a snake, doesn't have to be a shark, something where it's like, oh, your life is in danger. For a kid, it could just be, oh, no, we're not going to meet with our friends today. That's not happening. Or we do have to put on shoes. Yes, and their system goes, no, right? So there goes the executive brain that cares about logic and why you'd have to wear shoes. And there goes the emotional brain where it's like looking to connect and like wanting help. That's gone. And what you have is a kid that's in survival brain who's going to fight you. I'm not putting on the shoes. Bolt from the room, flight, freeze, and just like not put on the shoes. And you're like, oh, put on the shoes. And appease, which is like maybe they'll put on the shoes, but then they'll take them right off again, or something just to get through that moment of what their system considers to be survival.
And so as parents, we can work with our kids to meet them in the part of the brain where they are and support their processing there so that they can get back to their executive brain in the moment. But then also over time, the more often we do this, the more frequently we support our children to move with the flow of their neurochemistry in moments where they need support, then they get to spend more of their time in their executive brain overall, which means they can learn better, they can remember what they learn better, they can perform what they remember learning better. So it just means that they have a lot more room to to learn and grow at a level that it's almost uncommon today because of the low level of emotional support that we grow up with and that we're then able to give to our own children.
Right. So like what you're saying is that in the moment, by speaking to whatever brain state our child is in, we're communicating to them, these are shoes that we're putting on. It's not a grizzly bear, right? We're communicating to their system. It's not an emergency. It's a situation for us to troubleshoot. And by showing up for them in these moments, over time, we wire their brain so that they're now out in the world and they understand, oh, it was just a missed email. It's not a grizzly bear. Or, oh, that person is just disgruntled and shoved me out of the way because of what they've got going on. It's not a grizzly bear. So they spend less of their life in a survival reaction, which, gosh, who doesn't want that?
I love the direction that you took that question, because I feel like, you said if you lucked out, and that it made me smile, right? Because you're definitely lucky if you grew up in that type of family, because that's not the shape of most of our families today. And so taking it from the point of view that as parents, our kids learn what we model and very rarely what we say, if ever at all. What should it look like in our families if we were modeling great emotional intelligence?
So I like that you're using that word modeling. That's definitely where I think is an important place to start. And one of the things that we can model for our children is what it looks like to two parts, to regulate when that's necessary and what that looks like. And we can do that by letting them be included when we have feelings come up for us, and letting them be included when, or know when we have some uncomfortable feelings that we're working with, and letting them see us do our process of being with that feeling, processing that feeling, releasing that feeling, and then getting back to an executive brain state. Letting our children see us do that so many times that becomes part of just like, where they tie their shoe, or they see us pouring water into glasses, or, anything like that we want them to learn. The other part of that is making sure that they do get to see us in times, and that we're authentic about it in times where we do have uncomfortable emotion that's up, because that very much sends the message to them that the emotion is okay. It's safe here to have emotion, and it's safe for you to have emotion. And so then for them to see us in those moments where we get activated and we're working with something in ourselves, and then see us do that process and return to a state of regulation, I think that's a really important arc for our children to get to see. And they frequently don't, because we either stuff it, or we wait till they're not in the room,
or we blame it,
or we blame it on someone else, or we take it out on them. And so they frequently don't see an adult doing healthy emotional processing. So that's a big piece. But then the regulation piece, I think, is also important, because we can model what it looks like for them, how we inhabit our bodies, how we inhabit the space, how we hold the emotional space safe for them when they have something that's upsetting that they're working with. I think that's a really big
so let me just paint the picture of what it looks like on a practical level. So that means that I'm entering this moment and I've already got stuff going on, right? Like, because we all do, we're all carrying emotion. A huge chunk of it is historical, predates this moment. And then some of it is this moment, like, I don't know, the cat brought in a dead mouse, and this kid is being really loud and keeps trying to tell you about Minecraft while you're dealing with this other thing. And you're really supposed to be on the phone call because you have a job that you're doing, right? So you've got stuff happening, right? Mm-hmm. And so what it looks like in that moment is for you to be like, oh, I'm so frustrated right now. I feel so overwhelmed. Oh, I don't like what's happening. I don't like the dead mouse. I feel stressed about the call.
Can I just interject real quick? Yeah. So some of this can happen internally. You can be doing that same dialogue inside yourself, but you can also do it to the room.
Which is very different from saying, hey, I don't have time for that right now. Why are you talking to me about this? Can't you see I have stuff going on? Right? That's me having emotion at somebody. Emotionally, someone who's becoming emotionally sovereign is responsible for their emotion. So they're noticing it. Oh, I feel so frustrated, naming it. I feel so frustrated. I feel so overwhelmed. And then allowing that time to pass where I'm offering myself touch, which the emotional brain really responds to. I'm offering myself time because we have to wait for neurochemicals to shift, right? So, and then I'm updating the room because, I mean, our kids aren't really alarmed by this anymore. But when you do this for the first time in front of a kid, they're like, oh gosh, they're being loud about that. And like, I don't know these words. And you go, oh, okay, yeah. Just really disappointed. It is not how I wanted this moment to go. Okay. Okay. I'm not as frustrated. Have a little more space. What was it that you were trying to tell me about the Minecraft? Can you help me with the mouse while you tell me, kind of thing. So that's watching a parent go through it. It's not that they're not having feelings. It's not that they're zen all the time. That's not realistic. It's a parent having feelings, taking responsibility for them, offering themselves the tool. We use the mnemonic notice, name, touch. Notice it's happening, name it, offer yourself touch and time and connection. And then the neurochemistry does catch up. So often what's happening though, like that was just the parent having an upset, right? Most often the kid and the parent are having an upset at the same time.
Sometimes a very similar upset.
Yeah.
Because their brains are so linked.
Yeah. And so in those cases, Nathan and I advocate for this sort of like schizophrenic process. It's just a parallel process where on the inside, I'm going, oh, I do not like this. Like, I do not want to deal with this. The kid's upset. The mouse is here. I'm supposed to be on a call. I'm doing that on the inside. I'm noticing it. I'm naming it for myself. I'm staying in my body. This is another great form of touch. So that I can also be providing that same sort of safety for the kid. And you may not know this, but the emotional brain often shows up with high drama, lack of facts, exaggerations, they get a turn. They always have the turn and I never get the turn. And this is the worst day ever. And you're terrible, Mom, because you never let me do this stuff, right? And so if I'm not regulated, if I'm not doing that process on the inside, this is what I do on the outside. Nuh-uh. Are you kidding me? You just had a turn. I'm the worst mom. Me, the one who's cleaning up the mouse from the cat and listening to Minecraft and regulating the turns for the things. Like, are you kidding me? I'm not mom. I'm the worst mom, right? Which is not the same as emotional safety. So I'm regulating myself on the inside. And then on the outside, I'm letting the story be. The story is just a vehicle for the feelings to come out, because so far in our culture, we haven't trained ourselves to just say, oh, I'm frustrated. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. Oh, I'm sad. We almost always need a story vehicle. This is the worst day ever. I never get a turn. They get all the turns. You're such a bad mom. And like everything goes wrong for me, right? That's a story.
Like you were in my house last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my skill sets. So I have to be regulated so that I don't bite. I'm not nabbed by that story. The story is just there to give the person, in this case a kid, access to the feelings. So what I do is I hear the story. I'm like, whoa, that story, whoa, it's so unfair. There's so much injustice in it. I feel pretty irritated by it on the inside. On the outside, I'm like, wow, yeah, okay. I'm not agreeing with the story, but I am totally in alignment with the feelings underneath. So I'm saying, oh gosh, yeah, okay. You sound pretty mad. It almost sounds like almost hopeless. Like you're saying nothing works out for you and everything's going, is that hopeless? Or is that, no, it's lonely. Nobody cares about me, right? They help you out. As soon as you start pulling for the feelings, they help you out or they correct you. No, I'm not mad. I'm sad. It's just, this day is terrible. And you go, oh, tell me more, right? Because you as a parent, you want all that emotion out. You don't want it in the body, because what happens is that the body goes emergency, back to survival brain, and you don't want to interact with a survival brain kid for any seconds longer than you have to. So you're like, tell me more. And they do. They tell you more. When it's safe and the parent's available and regulated, oh, they tell you. They tell you more and more and more. And you nod and you listen and you're curious and you don't argue the facts because they don't matter. And you start to see cues of the neurochemistry changing. So like, I'm sad, right? Like the limpy coming into your body. Great. Now you can offer touch. You allow time to pass. You maybe even look at the clock so that you're telling yourself time actually needs to pass. So watch that clock tick, right? While you're touching, while you're going, shoot, rubbing the back. And then eventually, it's so amazing. It feels like magic.
Yeah.
Neurochemistry is so incredible because almost like clockwork, the kid talks about something off topic. What are we having for dinner? You're like, okay. Or it's so funny that, and they tell a joke, right? And that's when you can tell the executive brain is coming back online.
You know what I love? Sorry, Nathan, you go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
I was just going to piggyback off Natalie really quick to reiterate that you're doing notice, name, touch for yourself so that you're staying regulated and available for what the child is sharing with you. And you're supporting them to do notice, name, touch too. So even though they will tell more and more story, you want to make sure that you help them zero in on 2 or 3 of the feelings that are involved and name those as well. And I would also add that it's very, very common for us to really disagree with the story because, like Natalie was saying, it's dramatic, it's huge, it's exaggerated, the facts are kind of skewed. And so we want to be like, no, that didn't happen. As much as we can sort of reserve that for a later discussion, circle back and maybe get clearer about what the details are. In the moment, just allow that big, dramatic, exaggerated story. You don't have to agree with the story to be able to empathize with the feelings. And then making sure that you get some touch involved as soon as they will allow it, because that also helps shift their neurochemistry toward a more regulated state.